12 noon on the East Coast, 9 a.m. on the West.
And this is Reprint.
This isn't breaking headlines. This is a second look with context added for perspective.
This is Reprint, edited after the headlines.
All right, good morning to the West Coast and good afternoon to the East Coast. This is the Reprint, and I am Christal Jennings, editor-in-chief for Lenox Parker, along with publisher Victor Flavius.
Yes, good morning, Christal. How are you?
Oh, good morning. A little bit of a rough start this morning, but we are here. Happy Monday. Happy Monday to you. How was your weekend?
Yes, it was. I. So I went to this place called There's a park that I went to called Balboa Park here in San Diego,
Okay.
California, with my family. It was cool. It was fun, but it wore me out a little bit because we walked around a lot of different things. I think it was Chinese New Year
Oh, nice.
event that we had going on, so we checked that out a little bit, and then pretty much just try to get ready for the week. The weekends I try to like take a breath, decompress, rest and recalibrate and get ready for Monday through Friday because it's a lot going on in the world, energy
hmm
wise and work So, how's your weekend?
My weekend was good. I spent some time with the horses this weekend. It
Nice.
started out rainy, but I managed to it cleared up on Saturday, and so I ended up able to go do that. And then yesterday, I actually put my PR cap on and did the second annual Social Justice Honors with Ben Crump. And I know we're going to talk a little bit about that
Nice.
later on, but it was a great event. Unfortunately, the weather in New York
Mm.
prohibited Ben Crump from being able to join us, so he actually was stuck. Um,
What?
yeah,
He
his
wasn't at
flight
his
was
own
canceled.
event? That's crazy. Wow.
Well, his flight was canceled due to weather, but we had some other. We had a bunch of honorees. They gave away some amazing
Yeah.
scholarships for students at HBCUs. Keisha Lance Bottoms, spoke, and a few other people. Like I said, I know we're going to talk about it in just a bit, but it ended up going very nicely, even though his
Mm.
presence was obviously very very missed. But the work that he does supersedes his name, and the spirit was definitely still there in the room. It was beautiful brunch ceremony. So
Nice. That's
yep.
good. That sounds like
hmm
it was a good eventful weekend. We went to it last year or the year before, so it was pretty. I know it was really good.
It was
It's
it
a
was
very
last year.
yeah. Yeah.
It
Oh, it
was
was last
last year.
year? Oh,
Yeah, it was
okay.
last year. This was
Yeah.
the second annual last year, so it
Okay. Yeah.
just
Yeah.
feels
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
we're moving in warp speed. But yeah, it was last
Oh,
year,
we
and
are.
that was the first annual. This was the second. It's interesting because last year Don Lemon was an honoree, and
Mm-hmm.
I was like, man, I wish we had him here this year with
Oh,
everything that
yeah.
he has going
Yeah.
on. It would have been great to have him this year, but it was a good weekend. Definitely a good weekend. Definitely fit. Very fitting to have the celebration during Black History Month.
How's the weather in Atlanta right now? Because I know it was chilly here
You
in
know,
California. We had some rain.
Atlanta is bipolar when it comes to weather. So it was warm, but this morning it is freezing. It is like absolutely freezing here.
Mm.
Um,
Mm-mm.
it's been going back and forth, and I've been trying to fight off, um, sniffles because it's just been extreme. Like Saturday when I went out to see the horses, it was like in the 50s, and it was probably in the 60s,
Right.
very warm. And then this morning it's in the 30s. So yeah, we're
Mm-mm.
just it's doing its Atlanta thing.
Yeah, we're just getting back to warm because we last week we had 50s and 60s, more like
hmm
40s in the morning time. So it was chilly. I had to turn the heater on like twice this week just
Yeah.
passed. So Today it's warm out. The sun's coming out. No rain. It's like 70s, 60s, 70s for the week. So I'm just like, yes, thank you, God. We need this. So
Yeah.
yeah, the
Wow.
weather but New York. I was listening to the news this morning, and New York is under some well, the East Coast, the Northeast, I would say, is under some
Hmm.
extreme weather, and they're saying it's a lot of snow, but what they're stressing on is the wetness of the snow. Because usually you get dry snow and it's fluffy and it blows away and it
Hmm.
comes and goes.
Hmm.
But when it's wet, it some it stays down. Yeah. So and it's
It turned
supposed to be
to
that
ice.
2 feet of wet snow is not fun to drive or be in. So they are on some extreme weather conditions. I think the mayor, was it Muzami? I forget his name. Can't pronounce his name right. But the mayor of New
Hmm.
York pretty much called a state of emergency and advised all New Yorkians to stay home and to stay bunkered because it's going to be bad. So praying for those
Yeah.
people in New York. I have friends and family in New York, and I'm praying for those people and my,
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's actually where that is where Ben Crump was. So it makes sense that he was
Mm,
not able to get out of there. So
yeah, it's bad.
hopefully, I guess he may not be able to get out of there for a while. But I
Yeah.
know one of the things that we're talking about this morning is the TSA. The TSA, I guess, very, very inconvenient of Homeland Security suspends global entry as the partial government shutdown drags on. The U.S. Department of Homeland Security announced that it would suspend the global entry and briefly said it would halt TSA pre-check as part of
Mm,
emergency measures during a partial government shutdown. This, of course, is going to spark confusion for millions of travelers. Um, After industry pushback, the TSA said PreCheck will continue operating for now, but global entry remains suspended as funding disputes drag on. Woof. As someone that has travel planned for this weekend, that did concern me a little bit when I heard
yeah.
about that. I was very concerned about that because that makes your travel very different and actually ultimately will hold up travel, and we look forward to seeing those lines at the airlines and different places again. Um,
Who
it
would
just
think?
seems like, yeah, it just seems like we just can't get out of this strange place with the government. I guess with a lot of different things, but the obviously TSA pre-check allows vetted travelers to expedited security screening and lets them keep shoes and laptops in bags. I personally have to do because I always have my laptop. Always have my
Mm-hmm.
laptop. I
Me
don't
too.
ever
Me
travel
too.
without my laptop. And
Yep.
so, going through having to take your laptop out and do all that, it's very, very annoying. And it takes a lot of time. So
Mm-hmm.
I was definitely a little concerned when I saw that. And of course, global entry speeds up customers processing for frequent international travelers, often including TSA pre-check benefits. That one would not necessarily um, bother me this weekend because I'm just going to Miami. But I know that
Yeah.
that kind of thing it slows down travel for everybody, not just the people that have those the pre-check or the global entry. So um,
I Do you think in in 2026 with all the technology that we have, all of the cameras, all of the what those things called drones, and all of these different devices that we go through and have, I
mhm.
would think that security would be really tight at airports, and they would spend the money. The government would spend the money at the airports to have heightened security features put in place. So, but before you even step foot on the airport's platform, like say that open the doors, you probably already screened and checked already coming in. So I'm not sure if these measures it's effective. I think it's probably more consumer based type of thing, but I don't know. I mean, and because you go to some airports and you gotta take your shoes off, you gotta take your laptop out, you gotta take your coat off, you gotta take your belt, you gotta take every jewelry off, you
Yeah.
gotta take everything off. And then you go to some airports and they're like, no, leave your shoes on, leave your
Hmm.
you can come through with stuff. I'm like, I don't know the difference as to why they do that and why some airports have a different, maybe because some are international, some aren't. or maybe because you're leaving, I don't even know, maybe because you're leaving an international airport coming into the main part of the America, and it's fine.
Well, I
Because if I
also it could be for the numbers, right? So if you
true,
are I mean, I come out of Hartsville, Jackson, you come out usually out of LAX, so those are huge airports.
yeah,
Even though they do have international, they're just a large number of people, right? And
yeah,
so I know when I go to visit my son, who is in Traverse City, Michigan, very very tiny airport. I mean, they probably every time I go there, there's very few flights that are it's difficult to find a flight, and there's hardly anyone there, at the airport, and so. I mean, the parking is you could pull up and get a parking space right in front of the airport. So
yeah,
they don't have the same security measures because it's just
yeah.
the number of people going through is a lot less. So I would think if you are scanning people when they first come in, if you have a lot of people, there's probably the opportunity to miss something with the larger airports and the people that are the more traveled airports. I'm just making just an educated guess. I'm not sure,
No,
but
I yeah. I mean, you're right, but it does sound like it would be the opposite, right? So I would think the other way around. I would think that the smaller airports, like where Stone is, it will be, less security or less security measures because the budget's smaller, less traffic. Whereas the big airports like LAX and um, Atlanta
Hartsville,
Airport,
Jackson.
Hartsfield,
Mhm.
Jacksfield would be a lot of security, a lot of measures taken to secure the grounds, and not just people on the ground, but technology as well too. So I don't know. You're right.
Mhm.
We're not professionals in that part, so we'll just
Right.
keep it
Yeah.
moving. Keep it
Just keep
moving.
taking our shoes off and when
That's
when
that
asked.
day. Hands in the air and turn
And
around and
yeah, just oh my God. Can I say
I
I
know.
always every single time I go through the I'm not sure what that machine is called. I
I don't know
always
either.
get pulled to the side every single
I
time.
get pulled to the side too.
Do you really? Okay. Well, I
Hmm.
don't feel so bad because I'm like, I see other people I'm traveling with go through, they don't get pulled to the side. Every single time I get pulled to the side. It's like, ma'am, we've got to check under your arm or, every time.
Yeah, yeah. I
I thought
get
it
I
was just
get
me.
checked. Yeah. No,
I'm
I,
glad it's
I,
just
I
me.
got pulled. I got pulled in a few times, and I'm just like, what? And then, yeah, what? I would rather them check me knowing there's nothing on me than my bags, which again, nothing's in my bag. But the for them to
That is true.
for them to go through your bag, especially if you're running late on a flight, and then to stop and
Hmm.
check your bag and go through it, and then you're like
Yeah.
third or fourth in line, and then you gotta, So I've been there before one time, and I'm like, ah.
Yeah.
Anyhow, that's the
I've had
hassles
that a
of
couple of times.
spending money.
Yeah, hassles of flying. I've had that a couple of times too. A couple of times it was me just having a water bottle. I think I had a water bottle or something.
Yeah.
But that does take a lot longer and it's very annoying.
Mm,
And they have to
I
go
know.
through your
Everything,
ah
and I know, right? Pull
yeah.
out all your stuff. You have to repack, and it's a
Repack,
mess.
yeah, in front of people, try to zip it back up. Mine are usually like stuffed to the brim. Ah, don't want to think about it.
Do you have a scale? Do you weigh your stuff before you leave? Because I have a scale at home. You get a scale. So what
I
we
do need
did
to get
was
a
we
scale.
bought it. We bought a suitcase scale, and what we did is we pack our stuff, and then you grab the scale, you hook it on the thing, you lift it up, and it'll tell you 50 pounds, 54 pounds, whatever. So you would know, okay, if you pack and what's the weight, 50 pounds, 50 some pounds,
Hmm.
and you're
Hmm.
under, then you're good to go. You're not overpacked. So yeah, we have a scale.
I didn't even know you could do that.
Yeah,
That
you
is
get a
next
scale and you
level.
could lift it up and weigh your suitcase before you even get to the airport, because then you'd be overcharged
Yeah.
for yeah.
Yeah, I've had to take stuff out of my
Mm-mm.
suitcase and put it into my two-way. I'm never that organized though. I'll admit I'm never organized. I'm always packing the morning of or the night before, like
Mm.
3 in the morning. I'm never that organized. But for my trip this weekend, my husband
Backpack.
and I are going together. He's very organized, so I'll probably have to pack early. But I'm gonna tell him that we need to get a scale, especially when we're going
Yeah.
together, because then we can put all our stuff in the same one. And it
Uh-huh.
and
Yep.
yeah.
Women have
Well,
more things than guys, so shoes and to be able
definitely,
to drive and
definitely.
whatnot. Yeah, yeah.
more shoes and all purses and all that good stuff. But travel also is there's another issue that's concerning travel, and that's this Mexican cartel violence, which is this is really scary to me.
Hmm.
U.S. tourists are stranded after Mexico's drug lords killing sparks waves of violence. The Mexican army killed the Misio Ruben, I'm going to mispronounce some of these names, Segura Cervantes, known as El Mencho, the leader of the powerful Jalisco New Generation cartel, during a shootout in Jalisco state. This operation, supported by U.S. intelligence, triggered widespread violence across multiple Mexican states, including road blockades, vehicle arsons, and attacks that resulted in at least 18 deaths. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum urged calm while facing potential escalation, and U.S. President Donald Trump praised the action amid ongoing demands for stronger anti cartel measures. Analysts warn of a power vacuum that could lead to more cartel infighting and violence, though it may temporarily cease U.S. Mexico tensions over drug trafficking, particularly fentanyl. Jeez Louise. I guess this is ultimately, I guess this is a good thing.
Yeah, I have so my so my take on this is it's a good thing. It's always a good thing when well, it's never a good thing when lives are lost. I don't care if you are a bad
Right.
acting person, character, or not, right? But I would say, and
Mm-hmm.
this is my take on this. Just listening to the news and seeing what's going on politically, um, I feel like Mexico is also doing um, theatrics in the sense of, okay, we're gonna go ahead and clean up our streets because we don't want what happened to Venezuela or what's happening to Iran or what's happening to Gaza come on
Mm-hmm.
our shores. So let us do what we can, because people say that America has the strongest military power in the world right now. We do. We have
Mm-hmm.
but so for Mexico to do what they're doing, it takes a lot. The corruption's at the highest level on most places. But I feel more this is like, okay, Trump, we're gonna start cleaning up our side because we don't want you to come over here and do it for us, or to come on our soil and start a war. And so, and I'm not sure if America can do that, but we see what they did with Venezuela, um, and now they're
Right.
about to go into Iran, which is another weird thing because I heard something about Iran and it being that there's some elements that Iran uses in their oil that
Mm-hmm.
we need in for the Venezuela oil in order for us to be able to sell it. I don't know how true that is, but I was listening to some commentary today about that, and that's why they were saying how Venezuela and Iran work well together because their oil, there's a mixture that they put into the oil. However, these attacks have left a lot of American citizens stranded in Mexico. People who are on
Mm-hmm.
vacation. I saw one video where a guy these guys got stopped this motor vehicle and pulled the guy out, hit him in his head with a gun. He ran off, an older gentleman, and then they
Oh my God.
torched the car. They put gasoline in the car and burned it right on the spot, right there. There's a lot of videos on Instagram. Instagram and TikTok changed the world. We are seeing things in real time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so the news is not something you hear tomorrow. It is minute by second by second by second, and it
Yeah.
changes by the
Yeah.
second. By the time you hear the news in the afternoon, it's pretty much old because it happened last night.
Mm-hmm.
When me and you were on the phone that Sunday night, going over the news and trying to get our show together for the next day, Trump was pretty
Mm-hmm.
much grabbing the president of Venezuela at 9 o'clock at night and grabbing him, which was 12 o'clock, your time. But
Mm-hmm.
so by the time we woke up in the morning, it already happened and the news was already the news. So we time is flying. But yeah, that's my take on that part of it. Cause
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. It is. It's interesting because to your point there, I was talking to a friend of mine that has been a broadcast journalist for years, and she was like asking my opinion on a few personalities that do news on like TikTok, and it seems like, I mean, that's where we're going. That's the, like you said, if things are happening in real time, by the time you wait, I mean, they used to have where we do like breaking news where the news would,
Yeah.
um, your regular programming would stop. But the reason that I don't even think that would be effective now is because
No,
people are on
I
their
don't think so.
phones. They're not in front of their television sets anymore. So breaking news comes to you through TikTok. It comes to you through Instagram. And the only problem with that is one of the reasons that we try to, start the reprint, is because when you look through, TikTok, most news, segments on TikTok are short and very, very salacious. You see something that gets your attention, but you don't get
Yeah.
the context. I think specifically with Instagram, you see captions that are not always, don't have a lot of information. It's a lot of pictures, and they're usually very emotionally triggering, right? So you see something like
Yeah.
that, and it starts a chain reaction without the full context. So I think that it's good in a way that we are able to get news in real time, but it's also kind of scary because you see images, like the ones you were talking about happening in Mexico, that can be very troubling. And then I'm sorry. Um, for myself, I was thinking like, okay, I've got we're going on a cruise this weekend, and some of the places are in Mexico, so it could cause you to
Oh
be
no.
very, yeah, yeah. I was just like, I
Yeah.
called
Yeah.
Angel,
No.
like, are we gonna be okay? We are supposed to go to Cozumel. I don't know if
Oh
we should
wow. I
be.
don't even know. Yeah. Is there
Yeah, I don't know if
advisory
we
for
should.
that though? Did you get? Is there any type of advisory
We have
going
not
out?
advisory, but simple to us. I don't know. We'll see how the rest of this week goes. We'll see how the rest of
Oh
this week
wow.
goes, because there are, like you said, U.S. tourists that are caught up in that. But sometimes you do see things that it can frighten you out of, just from seeing the image and not know exactly the full context of that. This is probably going to
Yeah.
sound crazy, but that was just very strange to me that the president of Mexico, her name is Claudia Scheinbaum. Is that a Jewish
She's
name?
Jewish. Yeah, she's
She's
Jewish.
oh,
She's Jewish.
okay.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Oh
That
yeah.
is
Yep. Yep. Jewish lady. Mexican Jewish. Yeah. Hispanic Jewish.
okay.
Yeah. Spanish Jewish. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. Well,
Makes sense
we're
now,
gonna
right?
move
Yeah.
on. Yeah. It's like, okay. I saw that last name and I was like, am I reading
Yeah.
this
Yeah. Yeah.
correctly?
The
Did not
connections.
know
Yeah.
that. Did not know that. Something very uncomfortable happened at the British American Film, and Television Arts Awards. During the ceremony, John Davidson, a Tourette's advocate whose life inspired the nominated film, I Swear, experienced involuntary vocal tics, including expletives and a shouted racial slur, the N word, as Michael B. Jordan and Delroy Lindo presented an award. Host Alan Cumming twice addressed the room, explaining the outburst as uncontrollable symptoms of Tourette's and asking for empathy. We
No.
know that Michael B. Jordan and Delroy Lindo were there presenting on behalf. I mean, they both were in Sinners, and that film, we talked about it a few weeks ago, swept at many awards this year. What did you think when you saw that, Victor?
No. No. First of all, I mean, first of all, I'm laughing. Get a sip of water. I'm laughing because um, that's the word you picked. That's the only word that came to mind was the N word. I mean, you couldn't
Yeah.
say anything else. You couldn't say black. You couldn't say crazy. The N word came to.
Well, I
That
guess,
doesn't
I
even
mean,
make any sense. Why
but
would
no,
that word be why would that word be in your vocabulary if you don't use it regularly? I mean, that's the point. And because you have a tick it doesn't give you it doesn't give it's just so funny. It doesn't give you an out to say any type of word. Why that? Why didn't you use a different word? Why did you
Well,
not use
okay.
a different word?
When people have Tourette's,
Uh
they
huh.
are unable to control the words
No,
that
I
come
yeah,
out.
but
Right. So
that
wait,
should
I'm
be
just saying, let me just,
okay.
let
Go
me
ahead.
just say,
Go ahead. I'll
so
let
a lot of times that the words that are used that they for some reason end up involuntarily coming out are instinctive words that are usually many times are inappropriate, and a lot of times are curse words, which is why the documentary was titled "I Swear," because a lot of times um, many of them are using expletives when they are having these outbursts. I don't really understand um, how that specific disorder works, but we do know that it happens, and there are other expletives that are used. But I will say, it does seem very convenient. But it feels like if that's what's instinctively in you, that would come out, right? So I think when I hear, because I've heard other situations where people had outbursts, and a lot of times it's like things that people would say in their head but not say out loud, and they end up saying it out loud. You guys, anybody buying this? Right?
no, we're not buying that because no, no, no. What you said is true though. What you're saying in the mind is out loud.
Right.
But yeah, there's no Tourette's doesn't give you a place to discriminate or to say mean or hurtful or derogatory or anything like that. Because if it was a woman, now hear me out. If it was a woman on stage and you used the
Mm-hmm.
B word or you called her the S word,
Mm-hmm.
or whatever you called her, whatever, out her name other than something magnificent or great, he would have been.
Something that.
No, what I'm saying is like if it's in you to call somebody a derogatory term or name, it's in you.
Mm-hmm.
And however it comes out, whether it be whispered, Tourette's, it doesn't make
But see, I
I'm
don't think
laughing
you could
because it's
say
just,
but it is, that was unfortunate. But
no,
I think that
you can separate the two because
I don't
it's
think you
in you.
can.
It wouldn't be in your vocabulary if you didn't say it.
But
It
okay,
would have
just like
been
the lady we talked about last week
okay.
that worked for HGTV that was swearing under her breath, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And she
It's the same
said the
thing.
first thing she said was, "Rick, can you?" Right. So I think it's like what you probably have inside
Right,
instinctively.
right.
Like if you see someone, you may automatically think a descriptive word about them, but because we are,
I don't know.
of
I don't know.
relatively
I
sound
don't. I don't. I
mind, we
don't. I
can
don't. I don't
we can
know.
keep
I
ourselves
yeah.
from saying that out loud.
No, but
What
even
if you were
listen.
unable to control? Did you ever see that movie where Jim Carrey? I can't remember the name of it, but
Yeah,
Jim
I know.
Carrey, he could not stop himself from
Liar,
saying
liar,
what he
liar,
thought.
liar, liar.
Yes. So I feel like it's kind of like
No,
Tourette's is kind of like
no,
that.
no, 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 no.
Victor.
No, because hear me out. Hear me out. Hear me out. Hear me out. This is a good discussion. Hear me out. If I'm standing next to a person, let's say it's a person that doesn't smell good or a person
Right.
that I think is
That's a good one.
unattractive, it
Okay.
doesn't come to my mind to say
Because you don't have Tourette's. You don't have
no.
Tourette's.
That's not the
It
point.
is.
I'm
It
not.
really.
No, 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 no. Hear me out. I'm not thinking. I'm when you walk up on someone who don't smell good.
Yes, you are. Yes,
No,
you are.
no, I'm not. No, I'm
If
not.
you,
I promise
Victor,
you. I
if you
promise
had
you. It's not.
Tourette's, and you walked up next to someone that stunk, you would say it. You would say it. You would say it.
I don't. I don't know. I don't know.
You do. You would.
But hear me out. He's
Okay.
sitting in the audience.
Mhm.
He says the N word during the live taping. I don't understand why it was on his mind.
It wasn't on his mind. I think it's
what if
just.
the person no, but what if the person was gay? What if the person was
I
ugly?
think
He
it
was
would
an
all. I
ugly
think it
man.
would have
Then
happened then too. I think it. I
I don't
think it would
know.
have happened then too. I
I
think
don't
it
know.
would have happened then.
This is a
I think
tough
it
one.
would have
I
happened
don't
then.
know.
Miss Rell said he's heard before and is consistent in his vocabulary. I'm sorry, but there is no valid reason to use that
Yeah.
specific word
No.
while two black men are speaking. I
Nope.
agree, but I think if you have Tourette's, you're unable to stop yourself. I think if a person had Tourette's
Yeah.
and they walked up on someone that smelled bad, they would definitely say it as well. But the point is,
Mm.
I think the bigger point, just it was strange to hear and it made me laugh. But the thing is that racial prejudices and stereotypes are alive and well within us. Many people, even if they don't say it, specifically, I think people towards people of color. I think it just is it's ingrained there. I don't think there's a
Yeah.
way to get it out. I think when people feel comfortable or when people are it uncovers what is already there. And I think, I'm not saying that that's what happened here, but I do think, like I said, Tourette's, you're not able to control what comes out, and that is what is in there. So that was
That's
really, I'm
unfortunate.
sure, humiliating and embarrassing for Michael B. Jordan and Delroy Lindo. Not just because it totally took over that moment, and it was difficult to watch.
It's funny because it says his life inspired the movie film I Swear. So pretty
Yeah,
much
yeah, and it
came
and it
full circle.
definitely it just full circle, full circle.
My goodness.
Yeah, I just hate that people that Michael B. Jordan and Delroy Lindo had to experience that. But it
Yeah.
says, does this moment genuinely advance Tourette's understanding, or does it risk reinforcing stereotypes? I think to what we're saying, it definitely reinforces stereotypes. Inclusion in high profile events, better protocol. I don't know. What do you think they could have done to prevent something like that from happening? I believe he was there because, I don't know, was he being honored? I'm not sure if he was being honored, but he obviously, was there because of his contribution to his personal project, I Swear. I don't know. How
I
do you
don't
think they
know.
could have dealt with that?
What I want to say good morning to the chat. How everybody doing today? Thank you for joining us. What would I say? Isn't this show? Wasn't the show recorded? Wasn't it? It wasn't live. These shows are recorded, so this
No,
could have
I think it was.
been. It
I
was.
believe that it was live, but obviously most of what we saw was um, from
Yeah.
recordings from people's phones, and
Okay.
things
Maybe.
like
Okay.
that.
Oh, so that's what that was. Okay. So maybe they have to leave it in. I don't know. There's not much you can do, right? So first of all, there's no fault on anyone but the person that blurted out.
Well, I don't know if
Because
you can
one,
fault on them if they have to.
no, you have to take responsibility for your actions. You can't just be like, but you don't. First of all, we don't see black people calling white people out their names. We don't.
Victor, that's not true. That's not true. That if a
Where
black person
where?
has Tourette's, wait. If a black person had
Mm.
Tourette's, I'm not going to say a slur. So, uh,
No,
I'm going to
no, no.
say,
No. I hear you.
I,
I'm
I'm
not
not
saying
saying
Tourette's. I'm saying in general. I'm just saying
in
in general.
general.
We're not. We could think something or we could whatever, but we don't normally go that. We don't normally go there because see, my thing is this. Okay, I
No, I
understand
don't
it.
agree with
I
that.
understand. I understand the hold on. I understand the Tourette situation. I get that part, right? Because
Mhm,
that's a
mhm,
disability, right? But I'm
mhm.
saying in terms of using a word that you know hurts people. And so when you use a word that you knowingly know historically was derogatory and hurts people, and you use it in a way or use it at a time or a place where you know it has impact, that's what I'm saying. Now, if you use the word, let's say you have a white friend or a black friend and whatever in your personal space, whatever, but when it comes to public speaking or
Mhm.
public spaces or places where the media is, to me, that tells me it's different, right? Like the woman who got caught on tape, like what's her name, the the TV show lady.
Yeah.
She was using it amongst her friends, and she felt
Well,
safe
she
and
was using
comfortable
it
using it.
while she was in production, and
Right. So she,
that's why she
right.
was
So
fired.
she wasn't. calling any particular person. She wasn't around a person of color calling them that. So that's
Hmm.
still a little bit different, I would say. Like to me, yeah, don't use the word, but you wasn't calling a person. You just use that word as your go-to word, which I don't know
As
why
a
you would do
as a
that.
negative or derogatory term, as a
Yeah,
derogatory term,
yeah,
right?
right, right. You wouldn't, why don't you pick a different word? Oh, shucks, or something else like that, right? So there are many words you can use in the vocabulary, in the dictionary, in whatever that you can use. It's funny how they don't use any Jewish slangs, they don't use any other homophobic slangs. They always go to the N word.
That there,
I mean, for the most part. I'm just
no,
saying
I
for the
think
most
there
part.
are Jewish, right? But I do think I tell you why. I think that people have used Jewish um, slurs, but what happens when that's used is the Jewish community responds so swiftly and severely that it has consequences and repercussions where that is not the same with our community. And I think
Economic
that's part of the
economic
problem.
power. Economic power.
Economic
They
power,
do.
right? But even part of the reason, I mean, I will say this, and I'm not trying. I'm just playing. I'm not even playing devil's advocate. I'm just saying the truth. The Jewish
Yeah.
community does not stand for that, right? They do not. They do
True.
not stand for. They
They
don't play
don't.
with it.
Yeah.
Our community. It's not just about economic empowerment. We also have made the word. We have turned the word into a term of endearment amongst each
Yeah.
other.
Yeah.
So
We
it's a
yeah.
little different than their
Yeah.
community has not turned their slurs into terms of endearment. So you
You're right.
can't,
You're right. You're right.
you can't really connect those two. Um, but I think that outside of the Jewish community and the LGBTQ plus community, there aren't just slurs that really hurt for other for Caucasians, right? You don't that that I've heard terms that apply to Hispanics that are
Hmm.
negative, but I don't know if any have the same pack the same punch or the same negative connotation as the N word. You know what I mean? So I think that's also a problem that people say, well, black people don't. I think it's hard for us to. We're always reactive, but I don't think that there are slurs towards Caucasians that have any sort of power like that. Like if I remember Chris Rock did on one of his stand ups, he said, we watched look at a white person and called him a cracker. I mean, cracker doesn't have the same
Yeah. No, it doesn't.
impact
Yeah.
as the N word. So, and then I said, like I set up with our community making that word a term of endearment and a term of like inclusivity within the culture and using it in music and things. It's a little bit more difficult for us to be as
Yeah.
you know severe in the way we react to it being spoken. And
It's
actually,
unfortunate. You're
I've
right.
seen more times than not the companies, because I remember Paula Dean, and there's been different celebrities that have been canceled for using the word, but usually that's by a corporate company that is not a
Yeah.
black company. You know what I mean? Like, usually it's them trying to disconnect from negative publicity.
Yeah. We're like, where's Paula Deen at next week? We need her food. We need her restaurant. Why is it closed?
Yeah,
Yeah. She said, what? Man, please, let's get this food.
yeah, like that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. So like that, the Jewish community does
Yeah.
not respond like that. They
No.
respond like off with your head at the point. So they
Yeah,
do,
they do.
it's just two very different things, and I don't know how to rectify that, but it's still that word has a lot of pain behind it, and
I think I think part of it for the other communities, like you said, even the Jewish community, I think the power that they carry and have when it comes to economics, like they're the ones that in most cases control the finances in some of these corporations. So
Mhm,
when it happens, they're able to kill it right at the top before it gets trickled down into their communities
mhm.
um, with the effect. You know what I'm saying? Whereas in the black community, it's the news, it's the culture, it's the whatever's happening, and we don't have the economic power at the top to cut anything down. I think we've seen instances with the what's the lady's name? You probably would know. She was the president, I think it's ABC at the time, a few years back.
Mhm.
uh, during the Me Too movement, and
Mhm.
she was firm at making decisions when stuff came up. So we saw a little bit of that at that top, when it
Okay.
came
Okay.
to executive power. So in the
Mhm.
Jewish community, you do something crazy like that, they controlled mostly the entertainment sectors and TV and film and whatever. So if something happens in certain corporations, they can kill it at the top right away and be like, oh, nope, you got to go. So
Mhm.
by the time it gets to the community, it's already been dealt with. Our
Yeah.
community, we don't have that type of power where it's like, okay, I'm not excusing what you said was 100% true.
Mhm.
We play around too much with our own stuff.
Right.
But the other side to that is psychological, right? It's almost like
Facts.
we almost had to do that in order to be, it's almost like laughing instead of crying.
Yep. I
You know what I'm
agree.
saying?
Yeah.
Because there was a point in time when that name was so bad that, and I'm not advocating for people who use the word or just throw it around, but there was
Mhm.
a point in time in history when we were called those things, and then it became a term we use in our community before we start to see economic empowerment in our communities. We didn't have the ball players making millions of dollars. We didn't have the celebrity, the women, which we'll talk about later, that were millionaires and
Mhm.
going to college. So there was a period in our history, I would say, that word had to be some form of like, okay, we need to we need to remove the power that it took from us and use it for ourselves. So now we're at
Mhm.
a place right now where we
Mhm.
have more economic empowerment. We should
Right.
change and do different. So yeah.
I agree. I agree. And I think there has to be something said to our community's ability to take a negative thrown at us and take your
Yeah.
lemons and make lemonade, right? So I think that is a strength that we have, because we do not have the economic empowerment. So we were
We
able
don't.
to take something and make it our own. Like, I'm not going to allow you to use this against me. I'm going to make it something that is so that takes a certain ability and creativity and strength that I don't want to dismiss.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but moving forward, as you mentioned, there's good news. We have some positive news. A lot of negative news in the news period, but it always makes us feel good to share some empowering news, and that is we are talking about Black History Month, and in recent news, Black women-owned businesses generated over $118.7 billion in annual revenue. That is huge
That
because we
is
were able
huge.
to do that, to generate 118.7 billion in annual revenue. That is with us only receiving 34% of institutional funding. So that makes that number even
Wow.
bigger, exponentially larger, because we do not receive funding at anywhere near the same rate as our counterparts. Achieving revenue partly with peers could add roughly 400 billion to the U.S. economy annually. This emphasizes that Black women founders demonstrate resilience, efficiency, and growth. The only thing that we're lacking is aligned capital and not capability. Um, I think this is it's just a powerful statistic. I remember a conversation that I had maybe 2 years ago, or I guess 2 years ago, with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. when he was announcing
Yeah.
his candidacy for the independent ticket. And one of the things that I asked him about was the idea of reparations, because that is something that has evaded our community for whatever reason, that's been given to other communities. But when it comes to African Americans and reparations, there's always, oh, we can't do it for this reason or that reason. With other communities, that has not been the case. And what I told him is, I think that the only thing that we have an issue with is economics, right? I think we cannot stop racism. And that's one thing that I mentioned in the interview, and he agreed. Racism is not going to stop. People have their own predetermined and pre-assigned ideas of who other people are in the country. And I I don't think you can change the way people teach their children. You can't go in and institutionalize a different mindset. But what you can do is level the playing field when it comes to banks, lending, um, home, home buying opportunities, and things that affect the overall wealth of our community. And I think when we look at this number and see what Black women owned businesses have been able to do in spite of being um, all the red line and bureaucracy that works against us when it comes to lending and even in mentorship and in positioning, because this is not just the opportunities don't just stop when it comes to institutional funding. There are also the idea of another business owner. White business owners have opportunities with other business owners. There's programs that they are um, put into and mentored in a way that our community does not have. Internally, we just do not have those assets. We're getting them. We're more of them are coming as we see these numbers, but most of these Black women owned businesses are first generation businesses. So when you see what we've been able to do without help, in fact, in spite of often institutional programs set against us, I think it speaks to again the courage and strength of our community. I also in that interview with him, I moderated a panel, and it was in a predominantly Black neighborhood here, and he was there. He was asking the community what they what were their needs again, and him having the idea that because we don't own banks, right? We don't have relationships with banks in the way that many other communities do. He asked the room how many people were entrepreneurs, and in that room here in Atlanta, Georgia, I would say 85% of the room raised their hand, right? And to him that was shocking, because it's like, you all don't are not able to get bank loans. There are no Black banks. I think there may be two in the country that are not a part of a larger non-Black institution. So for us to still be entrepreneurs, still be business owners, still be making this type of annual revenue without that assistance, I think is something that we need to all be aware of. We need to celebrate, and we need to see that we are not bad when it comes to business. We are actually um, probably have more tenacity and more business acumen than our peers, because we've been able to do this, notwithstanding everything that they've done to stop us. And so I just think that's worth mentioning, and just giving some perspective. When you look at that 118.7 billion, you have to understand that it's in the face of consistent um, blockages and hurdles and obstacles being thrown into our path.
That says a lot to me. $118 billion is nothing to sneeze at, especially since it's annually. I mean, this is something that happens on a reoccurring basis in this country,
Hmm.
especially given only 34% of funding. Right? We've seen during the quote unquote bailout in 2018, banks that made a whole bunch of money were given money from the government. And so what this is telling me is that even the whole pull yourself up by your bootstrap situation, we're doing just that economically. And for a person to go to university, graduate, come out, start a business, and as a collective, you know, have almost $200 billion in revenue annually in this country tells me that that is the money that keeps this country flowing, because it's not the big corporations take their money, and so a big corporation will take their money, get tax breaks,
Hmm.
pocket the money, pay their board members, and send the money offshore to make products and to hide their money offshore.
Hmm.
So onshore, on American soil, $2 billion of money is what's keeping this country flowing. With this is only women. This is not even talking about the male side, men's side of things. So you
Hmm.
just imagine, we could say maybe a half $1 trillion that Black community contributes to this country, and that's what's keeping this country flowing. Because again, we're not large corporations making cars and different things in different countries. We're making our stuff here. We're employing people here on the soil, and so this is an amazing accomplishment for our community to have, especially Black women, because the rates that we see our community, the strain we came from under the crack epidemic and civil rights movement, slavery, we're talking 2 generations ago.
Mm-hmm.
My parents and your parents, our
Mm-hmm.
grandparents, we can talk about slavery in 3 generations, not
Mm-hmm.
millions of years ago. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
We could talk about civil rights movement 1 generation ago.
Right. Right. Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So we've seen these things happen. So to be at this particular point in our history, it's amazing. And so yeah, this is
Yeah.
great stuff.
Even when you, and I think with Black women, I do have to say, in addition to it being civil rights movement, we also have women. I mean, women were not allowed to have a bank account. Um,
Yeah.
you know, in the time that our parents were alive. So it is definitely, I think, extremely impressive to see the what has been done and what continues. And I think that this is not to celebrate Black women and not celebrate Black men, but I do think that it stands to be seen that often there are different challenges in business that women have, that are there through gender that we have had to push through in addition to race. So I just thought that was definitely something to be proud of this month. And then also I know next month is National Women's History Month, and so we'll be celebrating some more of that as well. But moving on to the second annual Ben Crump Human Rights Honors that I mentioned that I had a part of working this weekend, held on Sunday, February 22nd in Atlanta. Former Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms accepted the Public Service Award and delivered a speech just empowering and encouraging um, people to be very aware of what was at stake here as we move into early voting. I believe early voting here in Atlanta is in April, and also for the primaries, and regular voting is in May. But one of the things that Keisha shared and at the event yesterday is that she was at an event prior to coming to the human rights honors, and with Gavin Newsom, and he did give her his endorsement for governor of Georgia. So I wonder, what do you think, if you think that will impact the her governor's race, having Gavin Newsom, endorsement, is something that she's really excited about, and I think that is a big deal. We know that he has a lot of impact and influence in the Democratic Party. So I just wonder, what do you guys think? Do you think that will her having this endorsement um, will that change this race, or will that add to her ability to impact outside of Atlanta, Georgia, outside of Atlanta? What are your thoughts?
My thoughts on this is, so Keisha, Mrs. Lance Bottom, just no. I mean, I don't want to just call her Keisha. I don't know her personally, so out
Yeah,
of
yeah,
respect
yeah.
for her,
Mm-hmm.
her title, um, being mayor of Atlanta and then transitioning from mayor to the White House
Mm-hmm.
and now going for the governorship, I think she's playing her hand pretty well, especially getting to me the most powerful governor in the United States to co-sign her. Gavin Newsom, is our governor here in the state of California.
Mm-hmm.
He's on his last term, and I believe he may be running for president for 2028. From
Mm-hmm.
what people are saying, he's been very outspoken about Trump, and very strong on the Democratic side. Mind you, California has the fourth largest GDP in the world. and that means this state itself is a country by itself, pretty
Mm-hmm.
much when it comes to economics. A lot of the blowback that Trump faced during his tariff stuff, when he was talking about pulling money and taking money from states, California actually supplements the government. So this state gives money to the government, gives money back to the government to give to other states like Mississippi and Alabama and other states that are less fortunate economically.
Mm-hmm.
So they subsidize. That's what I meant. Subsidize the government with the funding. So to get endorsement from Gavin Newsom says a lot. And
Mm-hmm.
even if let's just say in a unperfect world she doesn't become governor, but he becomes president. Now
Mm-hmm.
she has an ally, so she can get a position in the White House. But
Which she did before with Biden.
she did before. She did before. So she has political standing, especially again with the Gavin Newsom. I'm sure she get endorsement from Westmore and other people like that, other governors like that. But I think that Gavin Newsom speaks volumes for her, being he's white, he's male, and he comes from a state where he's governor for the last 8 years,
Mm-hmm.
and California has thrived under his governorship.
Mm-hmm.
So it speaks volumes.
Yeah.
It speaks volumes. Yeah.
Okay. I do want to point out that, like I said, Benjamin Crump was unable to attend because of the snow in in New York, but it was a great event. Bishop Talbert Swain was awarded the Faith Based Activism Award, and he was very, very. He had a wonderful acceptance speech. I really enjoyed him. Um, he spoke candidly, about the fact that religion is often used um, to oppress and um,
Mm,
to hold people back. I thought that was interesting that he mentioned that you know for a long time this idea specifically with this current administration of white Christian nationalism excludes people of color. But he said, I worship a God that was Jesus, that was born in the continent of Africa and was a person of color. And just being very candid about that. And that's very, I think it's, religion has, especially Christianity, has often been used to manipulate, but just kind of bringing people back and
yeah.
making us remember what that is. Also, Dr. Tiffany Crutcher was awarded the Equity and Justice Award. She spoke passionately about her brother's murder by police years ago. Terrence Crutcher, um, his life was taken at a police stop with his hands raised. And she said that her brother's life and his legacy will be used in the nonprofit that she has to help others. But I did not realize that he had a twin sister, and
Mm,
just heartbreaking. I cannot imagine her, but she's very influential speaker, and it was just a really beautiful ceremony. Shouts out to Keisha Walker and Insights Marketing for that event. Just a really good event that reminds us. And I think even though it was initially scheduled for January, I think that having it in February was great because it was a part of Black History Month, and so I just want to say that was a wonderful. You guys can look at a recap. We'll have a recap on Lenox and Parker, and then and there were also some a great CBS Atlanta came out and did great coverage talking to Keisha about the reason that they partnered with Ben Crump, but just reminding people that civil rights and it's not something that we should be looking to other people to do. It's something that we all have the ability
right.
to be a part of and be involved in on a regular basis. So I was honored to have been able to be a part of it, and I enjoy work. And hopefully, Lenox and Park will be able to come back as a media sponsor moving forward with that event. So,
Yeah, we did it last year, and Ben, it was amazing. I had a
mhm,
good time. I
yeah,
felt great, especially giving back to our community.
yeah,
Ben Crumb gives back to the community. I
he
know
does.
a lot of stuff was said about him, because of his involvement with civil rights, but
Hmm.
to me, he does a lot for the community, and he puts the spotlight where it needs to go. A lot of times people are confused, or we have a lot to say about money and civil rights versus criminal charges, but
Hmm.
he definitely steps in and does the right thing. And the fact that he gives back to underclassmen,
Hmm.
and tries to strengthen our community by pulling those up. I think he does a good job with that. And like you said, Insight Media, shout out to Keisha for putting that event together every year.
Hmm.
And yeah, I look forward to hopefully we could be part of it again next year.
Yeah, I know he's going to be here. He has a book out. He has a fiction
Okay.
novel out that's doing really, really well. So if you all have an opportunity, he's going to be back here in, I believe, March.
Hmm.
So we'll make sure to let people know um, when that will be, with the date that will be, and his he has a novel out titled "Worse Than a Lie." That is his new
Okay.
novel. He also has a few books out on civil rights, but this "Worse Than a Lie" is a fiction novel. So I think people that may not be interested in nonfiction may enjoy
Hmm.
the fiction novel. It's doing really, really well. But he's going to be here doing a book signing in March at Morehouse. So we'll keep you guys posted on that. Moving on in the news to some more negative, coming off the positive, back onto the negative, but just a testament to people's just, I think, basic human greed. Russell Westbrook, his wife is talking about the emotional toll of her family's very public struggles over the past year,
Hmm.
including anxiety, scrutiny, and personal challenges. His wife Nina reveals disturbing messages from sports bettors, saying, "Hope you both die." It's
Hmm.
crazy. So basically, this just shows how desperate people become. Sports betting is a huge, huge thing. Some of it's underground, some of it's above ground. But I think she was sharing this to really highlight the importance of mental health, faith, and family support in navigating intense media attention and his life. She described how their family has coped with criticism, pressure, and public speculation tied to his on-court performance and off-court, family life in recent seasons. You know what, and I've never thought about this before because I do know, you know, I know that there are a lot of people that are very, 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 um, like dedicated to their sports teams. Some of them are that way because of um, the betting and I guess expanding their money. But I think that in this situation, you never think about how that affects the actual athlete, and hearing that people would be angry at his performance on the court and would send death threats to not just him, but him and his family is just, it's very unsettling. Very
It's
unsettling.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole betting gambling situation is kind of weird to me because there are a lot of people who are suffering from gambling. Gambling is an addictive
It is an
thing,
addiction. Hmm.
and then you mix that with sports. So you have a person that is addicted to sitting in front of a TV or going to a game, and
Hmm.
you have the diehard fans who spend all their money that they spend their waking hours, they spend all their money, they become super invested into the team, emotionally invested, into the team. They wear the jerseys, they watch every game, so their sense of entitlement comes to that level where it's like, okay, I'm investing my time, and
Hmm.
we know our time is our currency. I'm investing my physical money. A lot of homes are broken up because of that type of stuff. I'm investing my energy into these
Hmm.
games, and now I'm investing my physical hard-earned cash into these things. And now you're not even playing the game that you sign up to play. And so a lot of these people feel upset because they're like, hey, I'm spending my hard-earned time and money on this game, and you're not even showing up to the game to play. but
Hmm.
you're making all this money based upon whatever the team gives you. So I could understand that, but this country is suffering from mental health crisis all around the board, and then you add gambling to that, money to that, it makes it even worse. You
Yeah,
know,
it's
and
sad.
they're making it easier because we see how social media has ruined a lot of lives. I don't know how many people died from social media or been affected from social media. Would it be bullying at first or whatever? But now
Hmm.
we're seeing that these gambling platforms are on our phones, and it's easy to just pretty much swipe left, swipe right, put attach your Cash App or your whatever Apple Pay or whatever to it. Simple swipe and add, sign up, and then click the button, pick a few names, and then there you go. And so it's easy to blow your money, and you don't have to go to. The crazy part is you had before your time, you had to get dressed, get in your car, wait to get paid, and then you have to go down to the casino, place your bet. You have to, first of all, you have to be of age to get into casino.
Hmm.
Now it's all like a game. It's on your phone,
Yeah.
and it's advertised during halftime shows, advertised whatever. So now gambling is at your fingertips. It's a lot easier,
Hmm.
and we know how the brain works. The dopamine in the brain is like, oh, I want instant, instant, instant. And so
Hmm.
what happened is that now you're bypassing that part of your brain, reasoning, thinking, because they make it fun, they make it into a game, and
Yeah.
so now that's affecting people's mental health because you're you're taking the stuff off of the you're taking steps away, from there being a barrier. So
Yeah. It's that's crazy. I do know I know a lot of really passionate sports betting people, but I just never thought it could get to the point where people are giving death threats. But you mess around, people, money causes people to act out in
yeah,
crazy
yeah.
ways. So, um, ending today's news information. This story was crazy to me, but I think it's also kind of speaks to where we're going in the future. A CBS News segment highlighted a woman who says that she exclusively dates AI chatbots instead of real people. This decision was made after she said, I guess she'd been hurt and she's looking for emotional
Hmm.
safety, compatibility, and connection without the messiness of traditional relationships. Um, this woman explained she prefers relationships there because she enjoys them. There's no risk, and she feels emotionally safe. I saw this and I actually went down a rabbit hole, and there is a documentary out on Amazon Prime called Smiles and Kisses You, I believe. And it is about a man that is in a relationship with a AI. It's a doll, right? That is
Okay.
AI driven. But even looking into this situation with the woman here, that one is extreme because it actually is a doll. Um, but there are a growing number of people that are entertaining relationships. A lot of us do, talk to our chat GPT or AI assistants, but there are a lot of people that are starting to look to relationships, talking to their chat GPT. It could sound crazy to some people, but I've heard a lot of people, even friends of mine, have kind of joked about, because we ask our chat GPT for assistance with all types of things, right? But a lot of people rely on them kind of like a therapist, right? So people will share, what should I do here or that? And I think that's a short trip from being a therapist to being a romantic confidant. Like I definitely, see
Yeah.
the numbers are really growing. I mean, people probably, some of our audience may feel like this is strange or extreme, but I think that these stats prove that loneliness and social people are feeling socially isolated, and a lot of people are complaining about not having the opportunity for meaningful connections, and this is for some people this has been a an alternative. In this situation, a lot of the comments were mixed, from fascination and support to skepticism and concern. But I have, I do a lot of relationship conversations online, and there are a lot of more women than men who have shared, even publicly in the chat, that they are no longer interested in relationships with the opposite sex. A lot of people are saying that they are no longer dating or things like that. So I think that this could be where our community and cultures are going. Yeah, that's yeah.
Yeah,
People
yeah,
use it for therapy. I definitely have a lot of friends that do that for therapy. I've even had questions dealing with some family issues, and I would ask, my Chat GPT, for feedback and as far as like what are some things that we can do, to help with different things. But I could definitely, if someone is lonely, I mean, I could see that happening.
yeah. I could see it happening. I could see it happening. I mean, we talking about like what 8 to 9 billion people in the world.
Hmm.
And in some cases, yeah, I could see it happening. But for the mainstream part of it, I feel like mental health is serious in this country and around the world,
Hmm.
and a lot of people are suffering from mental health.
Hmm.
No, I mean seriously, and this is a growing trend, companies are going to start taking advantage of it. They're saying like in 2 to 4 years, it's going to be hard to tell a real video from a fake video. AI is taking over
Maybe not
that
even two to
serious.
four years.
Listen, there's a community that I mentioned to you before that's called, I think it's called Chatbot or whatever it is, but there's an AI community that only AI talks to AI. They have a religion, they have a
I heard about
language, they have all this
that.
stuff. Yeah. So it's to that point. And I also have seen over the years where Asian companies have created these sex dolls, right?
Mhm,
And that was the
mhm.
first part of it. But we know what's coming. And I'm not saying it's going to happen in the next 5 years, right? But we know that in the near future, 10, 20 years from now, because these things take time to get into mainstream society and become a norm, whether we like it or not. If you think about this, 5 years ago, economists and people in the tech space were saying, hey, AI is coming, and they were saying that voice is the next thing.
Mhm.
And people were like, "Well, what do you mean by voice? Think of it now. Look in most homes. You have Siri, you have Alexa,
Mhm.
and so some of these cars, some of the homes, some of the voice is the next thing. So you walk into your home, hey, turn on the music, turn on the TV, open the blinds, set the temperature, do all of the stuff.
Mhm.
And so what's happening now is we're seeing that the world is changing around us and it's becoming more acceptable. Think of this, right? 10 years ago, who would think about Instacart or Uber
Yeah.
Eats?
Yeah.
In what country, in what world? But now Uber Eats and Instacart is like the normal thing.
Mhm.
You know, we start seeing these new autonomous vehicles,
Mhm. Mhm.
picking people up, dropping them off. So the world's changing, and so in 10 years, will ChatGPT or will the GPT or will the world be a place where we go to? Yeah, because we're technically right now training everything. We are
We
training
are, but
these
I do.
models.
I think that people are going to start doing this. I especially for people that are lonely. Like
Yeah,
Haitian Empress
yeah,
said,
I
the
can see it.
immediacy of it. If you're lonely, I mean, I will admit, when I talk to my Chat GPT, a lot of times I will ask for help with like organizing a
Yeah.
script I'm working on, and I mean, it talks back. It seems like
Hmm.
a real person. It really does. It's like, this is
Listen,
great, Crystal,
I,
and I'm like, okay.
yeah, I'm the same way too. I'm in a car driving and say, I have a thought. They say, hey, and they say, yeah, what are you thinking? And I'm talking to it and talking back to me, and I'm like,
Yeah.
okay. Sometimes it doesn't get it right. Sometimes I have to like,
Yeah, it doesn't. But like you
move
said,
it
it's
along.
learning. It's learning
But
us.
yeah,
It's
but at
learning us.
least but at least it helps me with my process, my thought process, asking the right question to get the
Mhm.
right answer, to understand. But also, it's how you use the Chat GPT. It comes down to mental health again. Like I
Mhm.
use mine as a supplementary type of situation, whether it be for
Mhm.
graphic design or whether it be for whatever. I use it as a
Mhm.
supplement to like help me, move the process along or to get it better process. I don't use it as the main thing. Some
Mhm.
people do that. Some people say, okay, well, let me take this and do that. Say, hey, I have an idea. I need to write a letter to Crystal about something. And I write a letter and I said, you know what? Let me put it in chat to make sure it's cleaned up or whatever the case is so I get the right process through, with the right thing. And so you have to know what you need. It's like anything else you use in the world,
Yeah.
but
But I
the
think
day is coming. The day is coming.
it is, I think the day is today. I just got a alert. Single women have hopped on a new trend of abstaining from any romantic or intimate
Ooh,
relationships with men, including dating and casual hookups. That is a trend. And so with women deciding that this is no longer serving them, I do think we all have a, there's, loneliness is
yeah,
a real thing, so I think if you cut something off, this could be an option that for a lot of people, but
yeah,
as
yeah,
crazy as it sounds, but I just thought that was interesting and something that we definitely needed to
yeah.
pay attention to. I know we have there is a politician. Politics are changing as well. Um, politics are
Mm-hmm.
changing. There is a new politician, right? That Devonte Hill is
Yeah,
announcing his candidacy um, in for Tennessee's ninth congressional district. Now, what's interesting about Devonte is he is one of the youngest um, community leaders, on the records, on the books. I guess now he has spearheaded large protests in Memphis after the death of George Floyd. But he is very young. He's definitely not the traditional um, politician. And I know we have an interview coming up next week with our politics and communities editor with him, but it's definitely going to be interesting. So I would just tell people to
yeah,
tune in. I don't want to give too much of it away, but he's very young um, and very different, and definitely is going to. This is going to be a change in the way we look at politics and politicians. We've been saying that there's. I heard a lot of people complaining about the fact that there are congressmen and congresswomen in place that have been there for decades, and a lot of they feel like they're out of
forever.
touch.
Yeah,
And so I think this is the beginning of change. We see that in politics anyway, the way that politics are handled,
yeah,
arguments between parties going viral and being less than professional in some of the ways they are presented. So I think that there's definitely a change that's needed. And young people are definitely need to be a part of the conversation. So I would say stay tuned for that interview. He is looking at Devontae is looking to take on incumbent Stephen Cohen and Tennessee State Rep Justin Pearson. It's going to be interesting.
yeah. Looking forward to that interview. Looking forward to speaking. Hearing that interview. At least I would say.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. All right. Well, we've gone a little bit over. We got a little bit of a late start, and I do notice on my YouTube it is definitely the wrong heading for
Yes, that's all right.
today's reprint. But we'll get that fixed. And we just want to thank all of you for joining us today. And we definitely have some changes coming up to this broadcast that we think you guys are going to enjoy. Specifically in March, we have a lot of new updates, and this is going to be a entirely new reprint
Yeah.
for you to join, and hopefully this community continue to grow. Remember, you can always learn more about what we have going on. We would welcome you to visit lenoxandparker.com. Actually, you know what? Before I get out of here, I do want to give you guys the Black-owned business of the day. Our Black-owned business of the day is House of Jewels. House of Jewels Von J. They are a lifestyle and wellness platform that celebrates entrepreneurs, creatives, and professionals. In addition to curated products and services, they host events and feature leaders in the community. But I know they have those mink lashes and those unique signature shades that are available. So please visit them on Instagram, House of Jewels Von J. We just want to send them some love. And if you have a business that you would like to be highlighted here at Lenox and Parker, please send that to hello@lenoxandparker.com. And we want to make sure, like I said, we're going to be doing this every every day on every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday on the Reprint. We will be doing a highlighting a Black-owned business, and we also, of course, will be doing um,
Yeah.
our inspiration of the day. So our inspiration of the day is, hold on, let me get our. Do you have that? Do we have that slide, Victor? Or do I need to just pull that one up?
I don't have that slide.
Okay, let me pull up our inspirational quote
No,
of
I
the
don't have the
day.
slide for that time.
That is provided by Snap Yourself into a New Reality. And Snap Yourself into a New Reality, there is a inspirational quote of the day up every day. Today's quote is, "Are you a point eight person? The world only moves forward because a few people refuse to let an idea go." And so that is letting you
Mm,
know that there are only 20% of people would not be, there's always one person who doesn't just improve their life, they change the direction. So that is basically a formula. The 80-20 principle suggests that 3 times to 100 people, you can actually, if you apply the 80-20 principle 3 times to 100 people, you can see how the world actually gets built. Everyone consumes, some people maintain, fewer build, even fewer design, almost none originate. So if you want to be one of those people
mm.
that don't just listen, that don't just pay attention, but actually originates. The point eight person is defined by vision and persistence, the willingness to carry an unfinished possibility through fear, uncertainty, doubt, skepticism, and delay. This is where willpower becomes misunderstood. Willpower isn't hype, it isn't intensity, it isn't trying harder. It is the ability to hold a vision steady long enough for other people to see it, join the movement, and help it manifest. And so we encourage you to visit snapyourselfintoanewreality.com and to be one of those people that actually help things manifest. And that is the inspirational quote for today. Look forward to seeing you guys right here at the Reprint.
Nice. I like that.
9 a.m. on the West Coast, and of course 12 p.m. here on the East Coast. We love you guys for watching, and we look
Yes.
forward to seeing you on Wednesday. Have a beautiful week. Get it started off to a beautiful week, and we'll see you guys back here midweek.
Yeah. Okay. See you.